Hey travelers, welcome back to today's video. In this video, I have two very special guests that I had the honor and privilege of interviewing. I interviewed Lauren and Morgan, who are two aspiring Black female pilots. And y'all, you do not want to miss this interview today because it has jam-packed with so much information. In this video, we go over a ton of stuff, including how to get into the aviation industry, education requirements, what a day in the life of a pilot looks like, and what do pilots do when they experience turbulence. But before we get into today's video, make sure you smash the like button and smash the subscribe button for more content like this. I make these videos for you all because I want to see more underrepresented groups pursue travel jobs and international careers. All right, y'all, let's begin today's video.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and you're watching Composure Under Fire.
Alrighty, hi, my name is Morgan Johnson. I'm a seamstress and a pilot, and you're watching Composure Under Fire.
How long have you been a pilot? And this could be for both of y'all.
Okay, so I started my flight training in August of 2019. I had just graduated from Tuskegee with my bachelor's in business, sales, and marketing, and then I jumped straight into flight training. And it's now April 2021, so that timeline.
Yeah, I'm probably right in the same boat. I did my discovery flight in August of 2019, and I quit my job in March of 2020 to fly full time. So yeah, and now it's April. So.
Oh wow! And how did y'all even get into this?
So I had a friend, my best friend was actually graduated from Tuskegee with me, and he was inducted into the Redstone Scholarship Foundation, which is a program that pays for young Black scholars to fly from 0 hours to CFI for free. So basically, during his cross country phase for his IFR training, he took me on pretty much a whole bunch of adventures, Atlanta, New Orleans, major cities that we could visit in our region in the Southeast. And so I was just intrigued with the idea of anywhere in the world being accessible, and not because I had to go through someone else, but because I was the person in command, and I was kind of the person determining where I was going next and having the authority to go wherever I wanted to go. So I applied for the Redstone Scholarship Foundation. And at the time, they had women in the program, but there were only 2 other women. They started a little bit before me, and I ended up being the first private pilot in the Redstone Scholarship Foundation.
Wow. Congrats. Cool.
The first female private pilot. I don't know if I said female. I wasn't the first private pilot, the first female private pilot. Yeah.
I'm not that legendary, so I won't hit that, Morgan. But I actually worked full time as an electrical engineer, and I was miserable. And my friends, your girlfriends, they look at you and they're like, "What are you doing? Like, you're miserable." And so they went out on this quest to find me a new job. And so they were like, "Lauren, you travel all the time." I was going back and forth from California to Atlanta to wherever overseas is, like wherever. I just like to fly. So they said, "You spend all this money on plane tickets. Why don't you just be a pilot? And then that way you can fly, go somewhere, chill, and, save money and do something that you love." And I thought they were crazy because you don't really see Black people flying. At least I haven't. I mean, we're starting to now, especially now that you're, in it, you see it. But I sat on it and I was like, nah, I can't do that. Like, what? No. And I have this engineering degree. And so I was like, that would be a complete waste for me to walk away from it. But similarly, my homeboy got his commercial license, guy that I graduated with, and I saw it on Instagram. And so I hit him up and I was like, oh my goodness, like, can you tell me what made you want to fly? How'd you get into it? And so he called me and walked me through everything. He sent me light speed headset. He was like, "Lauren, if you're serious, like, I'm gonna mail you this headset, like, go get in the airplane." And I haven't, looked back since. So it's been great. There are requirements that you have to have in order to be eligible to take the flight test to get a certificate or a rating. So for a private pilot, you got to have 48 hours of time in an airplane. Of that time, so much of it has to be to certain things. So what we're talking about is, in order for us to get this next rating, you got to have 50 hours of cross-country time. So that means going from one airport to another airport that's at least 50 nautical miles away. So that's what we're talking about, is building that cross-country time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so since we're talking about like training, can y'all walk me through like, what is it like from the start, saying I'm gonna be a pilot, to like, what does training look like? What is all of this that you're talking about? Can you explain it for the people that are going to be watching? Like, can y'all break it down?
So I think that I have the luxury of training in Tuskegee with the Redstone Scholarship Foundation. So I know that my training experience is a lot different than other people. So definitely anytime you're Black, you're going to be the minority. So I know being Black training has to be an experience, but everybody I train with is Black. The only people, I never even flew with anybody that wasn't Black until I took my check ride. So that's one thing, but training as a Black woman is a minority within itself. So basically, I've never struggled with being intimidated or feeling uncomfortable, but I definitely struggle with being intimidated by the plane. When you go from like most people who fly, they either have some type of aviation background, like maybe aerospace engineering, or just something that gives them some type of understanding of what's going on. But or they have a parent or a grandparent who's a pilot, or an uncle or a neighbor. Like a lot, you'd be surprised. And so without anything like that, I got into a cockpit and was looking at a 6-pack steam gauge, like, what in the world is all of this stuff? None of this makes sense to me. And I think that it's very easy to be intimidated. It's intimidating. It's a lot of information. I know like most people in our program specifically have engineering degrees, or they're engineers, or Lauren's the engineer. Like most pilots have a pretty good foundation on like studying and like a heavy workload.
Right, you said business.
It says in marketing. I'm like, what is this stuff? So, I'm interested in fashion. I like to have fun. I'm a free spirit. Like she said, a lot of pilots like to travel. So it was really hard for me to settle down and decide, okay, if I want to do this, I got to study. I have to really get serious. I knew I was not only going to be Black, I was going to be a Black woman. So I wasn't going to show up unprepared or, representing something that I didn't feel like I wanted other people to look at me and say, oh, that's what a Black pilot is,
right.
A Black female pilot is. So it's a lot of pressure that's associated with training. And I think that's a big, steep curve or a big, steep challenge that you encounter. And then once you get past that, it's just so, like, it's such a freeing feeling to get to the airport and see the planes taking off and departing and flying in and being like, okay, cool, that's what I'm working towards, And like, my thing is that I say anytime I talk to somebody, it's like, I remember being on the ground and looking up at airplanes and being like, I wonder what they're doing up there. I wonder who that is. And like now it's me that's in the airplane and somebody on the ground like, oh, look at that airplane up there. So it's like, it's just such a great feeling. And it's like, it sucks that it's a minority. And it's like I said, it's like less than 2% of pilots are Black, less than 1% of them are women. It's like, I hate that it's a minority, but those numbers make me feel so just blessed. Like,
right.
I made it. Like, I don't know what picked me to be this, but I made it. And I'm here, and not only am I doing it, I'm making it through, and I'm actually achieving my goals. So it's a great feeling. It's a challenging feeling. I think a lot of people told me that private was going to be a lot easier than instrument. Instrument was going to be my challenge, but I love instrument. I like instrument a lot more. Your private pilot's license is your first license, and it basically grants you the ability to just carry passengers in the same category and class. So single engine airplanes. I think that it's pretty much just a license just to kind of play around and, you know, get a feel for the airplane and fly without an instructor and instrument. And that's only in good weather conditions. And then instrument is just going to give you the ability to do those same things, but in inclement weather where you can't necessarily see outside or you don't have visual reference to the ground. So you just reliant on your instruments inside of the aircraft to tell you what, if you're going up, if you're going down, if you're turning to your left or right, you know, that's your instrument rating.
It's like, it's the equivalent of you trying to drive in heavy rain and fog. You know, like when you're driving down the road in fog and you can't see, so you slow down and you're doing like 2 or 3, 10 miles per hour because you're trying to see right in front of you. That's what your instrument rating is, or the idea of you trying to look through milk. So like if you stuck your head in like a gallon of milk, what would you see? Absolutely nothing but white stuff. And that's what the idea of flying in the clouds is like. Yeah. So that's why you get your instrument rating, so you can fly in any weather.
Oh, wow. So, you talked about like being a Black woman and how it's like little representation, and how some people like coming into this like whole pilot thing, you know, they have like people that they already know who have been a pilot and all that. How do y'all deal and overcome that obstacle?
I feel like, so my aunt is an air traffic controller. But she's gonna hate me for saying this, but it didn't compute in my head that she was in aviation, like until now. So it's a little bit easier for me, not because she's super gung-ho. She's, you know, a Black woman, air traffic controller who worked in Chicago. So she has like a ton of connections. She's involved with ACE and stuff like that. So she's really been able to help me network and meet people that have been able to like pour into me and like give me advice and stuff like that. I bought an airplane. She knew a guy that sells airplanes, so he was able to give me information on like what to look for when purchasing my airplane. But outside of that, I think when you talk about pilots, the community is cool, right? As much as it is an obstacle being a minority and being a woman and looking young, like I look like I'm 20.
We both look like we're about 14.
I know, right? Like I'm not. So, right. But the pilot community, when you're at the airport and when you're flying, the majority of that goes out the window, and people are super gracious and they're willing to like help you. And that's been my experience. So I've been hanging out at the airport. That's what I've been doing, especially during COVID. Like there's nowhere else to go. I would just sit outside under a tree at the airport and have my books and just be studying. And random pilots were like, you know, come up, socially distant, come up to me and, you know, share stuff with me, offer to take me up in their plane, give me advice, stuff like that. And my instructors have literally taken me in. They've like been such a godsend and like have been, you know, coaching and directing me. So I think once you step in the direction of going into aviation, people and opportunities start to show up because you're going into something that's like such a small niche anyway, you know. And then the black aviation community is so small that like we're super tight-knit.
As soon as you decide that you want to proclaim that you're a pilot on Instagram or Twitter, it's the influx of pilots, Black pilots, who are gonna, you know, share your work or comment on your post. Or it's like a strong community. It's a small community, but it's a strong community.
Yeah.
Even though we're a minority, people are so like, pilots are cool. It's like every now and again I catch people on the radio who are like really mean, but other than that, I haven't met anybody in person. I actually, because of the program I'm in, sometimes people know my voice, or like, especially girls in our program, they know our voices from watching our videos on YouTube, and they say, hey, we know you're so-and-so, especially because the tail numbers are consistent from the videos. So I haven't had anybody that wasn't extremely gracious, extremely helpful, extremely, you know, I've gotten so many people's numbers. We just had a guy who was in a Gulfstream who showed up at Moulton Field, a $65 million Gulfstream. And he's like, hey, let's talk, you know, like let's let's figure it out. What do you want to do? You know, I was telling them I was the first person who wanted to be a corporate pilot, and they were like, oh, we're going to come back down and we're going to talk to you about it, since, you know, nobody else here is really corporate pilot. So I haven't had any issues with anybody.
Yeah.
It's just not something that I feel like it's not like a part-time thing. Like, I feel like it takes a lot of your time, and I didn't really get into the groove of really feeling like I had PIC mentality, pilot in command mentality, until I spent time at the airport and I talked to pilots, and I got more comfortable in conversations, and I didn't have to physically be the person in the conversation, but overhearing conversations. It's like I don't necessarily always study by looking in my books, because I'm sitting in a ground lesson and somebody else is learning and I'm just listening to them. Or I'm in my mind, I'm thinking about, okay, I heard them say this day, and that makes me think about, like, it's just spending time at the airport is critical. Like, spending time around pilots is critical. It literally will make or break your aviation aspirations. So
there's only so much the book can teach you. It's literally experience, and you will learn. I mean, and you got to read the book because you got to take the test. Like, you need to know that content. But like, I will jump out on a limb and say that I'm probably a safer and more proficient pilot than probably some of these 20 or 30-year-old pilots, because of the fact that I've been like super saturated in it for the last year and a half, 2 years. And every day, like, I'm doing something related to aviation, or I'm learning something about, you know, my airplane when it goes down, or being at the airport and seeing things and hearing things. You get to hear stories about things people went through, and that helps you make better or different decisions when you choose to go fly or you choose to do something.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, and it's like a big part of flying is watching accident case studies, and you hear your own accident case studies. And you can watch a million accident case studies, but hearing the story and seeing somebody's face and just feeling the vibe that they're trying to give you when they were going through whatever they were going through, it will really make you be like, oh, let me make sure I never do that. Let me make sure whenever I get into that situation, I'm doing exactly what they did to make sure I can live to tell the story that they told.
So what I'm hearing is that, like, a lot of this training is like hands-on. Like, you have to have hands-on training. Like, you learn more about hands-on by other people's stories, other people's experiences. And is this accident case studies? Are there people coming into the classroom and telling you like the mistakes they made, or are you watching a video? What does that look like?
Yeah, anything. So it's not just the traumatic stuff that we review. We review little stuff. So like, if a checklist item doesn't check out, or something, you know, to most point doesn't go according to plan, you're going to debrief it and you're going to have a conversation about it. My radio went out. We were doing an IFR. Like, I was flying, talking to air traffic control. And when you're talking to air traffic control, you have to be in communication with them. And then if you're on a instrument flight plan, that means you said you were going to do X, Y, Z, and they're expecting you to do X, Y, Z. And so I couldn't do Z. And so, you know, that technically is like a deviation. And so now we got to have a whole nother conversation, and you got to do this lost comm thing, and there's other checklists. And so when we landed, like, it's never happened to me before. And so when we landed, my instructor immediately called the air traffic control, you know, team to tell them that we had landed safely, so that we didn't, you know, get in trouble with anybody, but also so that they're not looking for us. And then, you know, we sat down and we talked about it. Hey, what would you have done if I wasn't in the airplane, right? As my instructor. So it's just to your point, it's super hands-on, and it's always learning, and it's safe. It's like, that is what makes it safe, is that we're critical on every aspect of the flight and what's going on.
What type of education do y'all need to be pilots?
So that is the beauty of being a pilot. You don't gotta know nothing, right? And I think
like, if you want to go to the airlines, you gotta have at least an associate's degree, which is a 2-year degree. But I don't have the airline aspirations. I want to fly jets for like celebrities or something, and they probably want me to have a degree, but it's not required.
They're not checking. You literally have to, like, in the instructions on the sheet say you have to be, you know, in order to get your private pilot certificate, you got to be 17 years old. You have to read and write English. and you have to be able to like perform the duties that are written in the little book or whatever. And that's it. You don't have to have any other education. Like you could be in high school. We got a high school student right now who is going to have her private pilot certificate before she graduates from high school.
Oh, wow.
So there's like, yeah. And so I think that's huge when we talk about, especially, the Black community. It's like, we're out here, and I'll speak for myself, like this whole idea of you got to go to college, you got to get a good education, you got to do all these things. And we are consistently throwing ourselves into debt, trying to, do this stuff when there are plenty of jobs in aviation that require, becoming a pilot is fairly expensive, but
if you shifted your, it's really just a different path. So if you decide,
exactly.
okay, I'm not gonna go to college, I'm gonna be a pilot, and the money that I would have spent on college, I spent being a commercial pilot. Now I'm flying for hire. You can go to school after that.
Exactly.
It's just a different route that nobody really knows about. So,
or you go to maintenance school and become a aircraft maintenance person, or like there's just, or ATC. Like you don't have to have any education. Like you can go be an air traffic controller. Maybe you have to have an associate. I don't think you do, but there's just, like, to your point, it's a different mindset that we aren't really tapped into. And like, that's like one of my big things is like really emphasizing and explaining to people that there are so many opportunities in aviation. And then, right, some of us go to college and we leave college making 40 grand. That's it, right? We got a $150,000 debt from college and we're only making 40K a year. There is barely any, there are barely any aviation jobs that when you're finished, when you get hired, you're not at least making 80, 90, 100K.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
I've been talking about the Redstone Scholarship Foundation. Like, I don't think if you are a Black pilot or you are somebody that's Black and lives in the United States and you don't even want to, you don't want to pay, it's a lot of work. They require a lot from you. They're going to hold you to a standard. It's fairly difficult to get in. But not difficult, but it's, rigorous. It's free. They're trying to increase the number of Black pilots. And I think there's like 35 of us, 40 of us so far. So we're trying to get the guy who kind of started our program, the first sponsored pilot that we had, is trying to have more than the Tuskegee Airmen, 996 Black pilots. He won 997. So it's like we looking for more people every day. And even though it's expensive, right now we got like 6 or 7 scholars who left their school and moved to Tuskegee just for our program. We even got somebody from the Virgin Islands. So it's like, it's a real thing. Like if you're interested in becoming a pilot, research the Redstone Scholarship Foundation, follow on Instagram, the Redstone Scholarship Foundation. Like they really will change your life. And it's like not an age requirement. I'm 24. We got people who are in high school. We got people in college. We got we got people in the Air Force that's in their 50s. So it's like just all about,
Wow. So I have so many questions. So my question is there a specific plane that y'all fly in for like training versus like when y'all is it like, do the planes graduate as y'all progress?
So for the majority of our training from all the way up until, my CFI, I could train in a single engine airplane. The same plane that she's talking about and that I train in, we could fly this same plane as long as it's instrument rated all the way up until, or instrument certified all the way up until, or flight instructors, and through that. Only time we have to kind of switch it up is if we were interested in like a commercial multi. So right now, like I said, we got single engine airplanes, and once you jump into that multi-engine, that's when you are having more than one engine, obviously, and that's going to be a different aircraft with a different system, and it requires a different rating, a different cert. So.
Yeah, so when you get your private pilot's license, they say you can fly any single engine airplane, right? You have to be able to say, yes, like I'm proficient to fly this plane, or no, I need to go get help because I don't know how to fly it. Mo said, like it starts to get complicated if you want to get, there are complex airplanes, which means that they have landing gear that go up and down, and you have to, tell the landing gear to go up and down. Or there's a propeller that rotates, and so you have to be able to rotate that propeller. You have to get an endorsement to fly those airplanes. There's a tail dragger airplane. You got to get a special endorsement to fly that. But for the most part, you can go through from zero until commercial in the same plane, give or take 10 hours that you have to do in a different plane. But you could potentially. I've flown the 172, the Cessna. The plane that I flew to Missouri was a Piper Cherokee 180. I've also flown a Piper Cherokee 150. I mean, I have my plane, which is the Archer. I've flown like 2 different types of Archers. My instructor has a complex airplane. She has an RV6. So I'm learning how to fly her RV6. I potentially might be learning how to fly a tail dragger. So you can like mix and match and start doing stuff, after you get your private pilot license, you can start going all over the place. But like, you could also just stay super focused and go from zero to commercial in the same plane.
So for someone who is new to the whole aviation world, like me, and probably many people who are watching this video, you have your private pilots, you have your commercial pilots, you have your corporate pilots. What other kind of pilots? Can you just like elaborate a little bit more? What is
I think the main 3 genres of like the main 3 is like people either do corporate flying, which is like what I want to do, like flying jets for like small companies, or I want to fly specifically for like celebrities or rich people. That seems cool to me. And then they have commercial flying, which is going to be like your airlines, your majors and your regionals, your Deltas, your Uniteds, your, those Frontier, Spirit, those type of places. And then people are going to go, that third option is typically the military. So people who are flying combat or transport for the military. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's aerial firefighting. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's people who fly helicopters for the news. Like there's like you can literally fly any job that you can think of. There's probably a pilot that's related. Like if you even think about songs or movies, like there's people who fly planes for everything.
Yeah, drone pilots, all of it. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing to think about is so you have to get, I guess, like the order that people typically do it in is like to get to all of the positions, all the jobs, you have to have a commercial certificate. Like you have to have a commercial pilot's license. So you have to start off with your private pilot's license, and then you have to get your commercial pilot's license. If you're going to get, and the thing is like, there's like a 200-hour difference between the two. And so because there's so many hours you're going to be in the airplane anyway, most people go ahead and get their instrument rating. So, and their rule, like it just makes sense. Go get your instrument rating. So typically people do their private pilot, their instrument rating, and then their commercial. And then after you get your commercial rating, you can get paid. With your private pilot and with your instrument, you can't get paid to do any work. So if you see people like we're out here, y'all see us flying, somebody is paying for us to fly, or we're paying for us to fly. Like we're not making any money on these flights. Like it is literally training. We do not get to collect any money until we get to the commercial level. And then once you get that commercial ticket, that's when, from the FAA standpoint, you can be hired to do work.
Thank you for breaking that down, y'all. What does your typical days look like these days? Like what does your life look like?
Well, we're both working on our instruments, so I feel like it's a possibility we can have very similar schedules, are very polar opposites. It's like it really all depends on you and your instructor. I like to have 5 lessons a week. My program is really ground intensive, so they're literally trying to train us to be the next generation of Tuskegee Airmen. So I do a lot of ground. I like to have 3-hour grounds, and then I sit in on other people's grounds. So I might be at the airport for anywhere between 3 to 6 hours. I don't work. So it's like that's all I really do is fly. So I right now have a consistent schedule, which is Monday through Friday. And then I try to build cross-country hours on the weekend. So I have actual lessons Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends I'm trying to build. I'm usually flying like a solo flight to somewhere local that's just might be a 2.5 hour flight or 2 hour flight, just to build my hours.
Yeah, I'm not that privileged. I am paying for my I'm paying for my flight. Like, I know, yeah, exactly. I mean, so to be very transparent, I emptied out my 401k. So I'm 32, about to be 30.
Yes, people say that. Like, that's not the first time I've heard somebody say that.
Yeah, so I'm 32. I worked for like 6.5 years. So I had savings. I did I did decent. So I literally emptied out my 401k. So I've been living out my 401k. And so you also heard that say that I bought an airplane and I did all this stuff. I did not have all the money for this. So I'm also a hustler. So I have like so many side jobs. I do so many things, but for the most part, so I also have my ground instructor license, both my like regular ground instructor license to teach private pilot. And then I also have my instrument ground instructor license. So we teach ground school on Thursdays every week. So every Thursday from 4 to 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm doing ground school. So I'm prepping, Thursday morning for that ground school. Right now, I'm probably flying 3 times a week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. My instructors are full-time corporate pilots. So if they get called to a job, they're not here. So I'm not training, which is fine because I have other stuff going on. So I also, like I said, I have a bunch. I work part-time for a charter company. So there's a private company or a small airplane charter company out here. And I do like coordination for them. So let's say that you wanted to kind of what Mo wants to do. You're, this high, well-to-do person and you want to go from Sacramento to Napa, right? Like you want to go wine country. You don't want to drive. You'll call us and you say, hey, I want to go to Napa and I'm in LA on May the 25th. So I'll give you a quote for that trip. And then if you want to book it, I'll get, the pilots set up. I'll put it in our calendar. We'll figure out what the fuel is, who's going to go to which airport. Do you guys need catering, all that stuff. So that's like one of my part-time jobs. And so again, right, like it's still in aviation. So I'm still learning stuff about like aviation. And then I do like video editing and like just all kind of, I'm like a personal assistant for some folks. So when I'm not like, I fly and I like to fly first thing in the morning. I get up at like 5 a.m. So we'll be at the airport at 6 a.m. and I'll fly from like 6 to 8 or 6 to 9. We'll do some debriefing ground, and I'm usually, leaving the airport if I have work to do about 11 or 12. If not, I'm chilling at the airport the rest of the day, talking to hangar neighbors or helping somebody on their airplane, or like students will come and I'll, do ground stuff with them. So I don't really have a traditional schedule. Every day kind of looks different for me, just depending on, what I got going on, what my instructors are doing.
I think I expect people to be a little bit more quirky. Everybody's super cool. Like I haven't met one pilot that I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember feeling like, wow, pilots might be like the coolest people. Like I haven't met anybody who like, I meet old white guys who I would kick it with on the weekends. Like pilots are cool. Like, and
they're so chill.
Very social, very cool, like homeboys. Like everybody's a homeboy. Like I wasn't expecting everybody to be as openly. I know when I got into my program, they were really kind of getting on me to be really professional and really structured and all those things are important. But I have a personality. Like I'm a person, and I like to be my regular person. So it's like everybody was kind of trying to trim me up and change me into this different version of myself. And I was like meeting pilots, and they're like, "Leave her alone." Like we got a chief pilot who's this old guy. He's been flying for like 40 years. He's like, they're like, "Leave her alone. There's nothing wrong with her. Like she just leave, let her be." Like and like I know somebody that's going through. My best friend who I was saying was doing his instrument training, and I was backseating his flights. He's flying in the air. He just got his first airline job, and he's like, wow, I was feeling like I was gonna have to come here and kind of live inside this box, but everybody's so normal and so natural, and that's kind of a blessing and a curse, because even though you want to feel comfortable and you want to be your true self, you kind of gotta straddle the fence, because at the end of the day, like we were saying, we're a minority, so you can't get too comfortable, but nonetheless, it's a lot more relaxed environment. It's the healthy amount of stress, and it's a lot more relaxed environment than I anticipated.
Well,
I think I would.
I'm sorry, Lauren. Go ahead, Lauren.
I think I would like echo kind of the same thing. Especially if you've gone to college and like you've experienced at some point something hard, right? Like, or even high school, right? Like you have projects and stuff like that. So I don't think the training necessarily is like the hardest part, because you got to study, you got to like dig into it. So I think the most surprising thing for me, especially like I'm originally from the East Coast and I'm from the South. And so I grew up in a very structured home, and like, image is everything. And, you got to act a certain way, you got to play a certain part. We already know the stigma that comes with, especially being a Black woman in society, right? Like you can't be too aggressive, you can't be too loud, you got to do this, you got to wear that, all that stuff. And that has been the number one thing, like my instructors beat me up over. They're like, you just need to be you. Like, what do you want to do? Like, who are you trying to impress right now? Nobody. Do you? What do you want to do? And I think it's been such a freeing thing for me, because I just have been able to show up as me and be accepted as me. And, to Mo's point, you do have to straddle the line, because we still got to show up.
You do, but
but it's so nice, because especially for me, coming from engineering, being a Black woman in engineering with a whole bunch of, older white dudes that have been doing engineering and projects, and you walk in and you're leading a project and they're looking at you like, prove yourself. And so now you got to be, this poloed up, edges laid person. And now I'm just like, if I show up to the airport and I go touch an airplane, nobody's coming for me, because they know that I have my pilot's license and they know that I check the boxes to be able to be here, So, and that's respect. It's like, hey, we both have gone through the same training. You're good in my book. Let's go fly, And I think that literally has been the biggest obstacle that my brain has had to wrap itself. It seems so small, but it's huge. It's so huge for me. It's huge.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do people treat y'all differently knowing that y'all fly planes?
So I was really skeptical about posting about being a pilot, because I felt like there was a lot of pressure associated with being a pilot and being a part of my program. So I was very skeptical about ever posting about it. But once I did post about it, I had like a huge amount of people who like DM me and ask me questions or say, hey, this is so inspiring, or hey, I've never seen anybody do this before that look like me.
If somebody said, I want to be a pilot, what skills do they have to have? What attributes do they have to have? Like 3.
Go ahead. You go first.
I honestly feel like for me, it's more so of like, I would say self-discipline. And I would say hard work, and I would say resiliency would be my 3, because you can teach anybody how to fly, right? That's not the hard part. The hard part is being able to sit down and study and learn the material, because I can't, nobody can force you to commit that stuff to memory, right? And then you're going to fall short. You're not going to land the plane, right? You're going to get behind the power curve and things are going to come at you, and you're not going to you're going to walk away some days crying, but you got to be resilient, and you got to be able to say, all right, no matter how many times this doesn't go right, or how many times, like I come and I mess things up, or ATC is like, what are you trying to say to me? No matter how many times, right, you're getting back in that airplane and you're doing it over and over and over again. And then it's a lot of hard work. It doesn't stop, like even if you say, hey, I want a career in aviation, you got to recognize that once you get your license, it doesn't end there. You got to take recurrency tests, right? Every single type of jet or plane that you want to fly requires a certification. That means more written tests. That means more flight tests. And so it's a lot of hard work, and you have to stay proficient at all of it. And I don't think, people necessarily think about that part when they, choose to get into aviation. But I think the rest of it, the education, the background, the woe is me, whatever, all those things, we can find you the money, we can find you the teachers, we can find you the plane. But what I can't give you is hard work, self-discipline, and resiliency.
Being a pilot is going to, and my friend who flew before me, he's like, this is going to completely alter the way that you interact with people and the way that you manage your time. And that is inevitable. Like, I am a completely different person. I am a more meticulous person. I am a more refined person. I'm a more alert person because of aviation. And those are not skills that I had walking into my aviation career. Those are things that aviation taught me.
How do y'all deal with turbulence?
And I think, like, when you learn about it, I think you are fearful of things that you don't understand. So, I also think that with the ground, you have ground school and ground training that teaches you about weather, and it teaches you about all these things. And so you go from, maybe being a little afraid, or maybe being like, oh my God, what's going on, to understanding, oh, turbulence, like this is because of wind, or the clouds are close to me, or there's weather coming in. And so you change your frame of thinking, and it's no longer like, oh my God, I'm scared, the plane is getting, like, you now understand what's actually happening.
How do you find your way through the sky?
Oh, like, how do I get from one destination to another?
Like, how do y'all know, like, especially if it's dark, like, what?
We got GPS.
I don't have GPS.
You don't have GPS? Oh, wow. Oh my God. So I have two different
yourself.
training. I have an IFR airplane and a basic VFR airplane. One has GPS and one doesn't. But I mean, to get my private, I can use my GPS anyways. But most people forget that there's GPS. Like, that's a common question that I get. And it's like, just like if you don't know where you at now, they got GPS on the ground, it's GPS in the air too. But I mean, it's a lot of different nav aids. Like, you can track something called a VOR, which when I did my private training, anytime I ever did cross countries, I always wanted a VOR. That was like for sure, ain't no way I'm getting lost. This is the VOR. And it's just a way, like, it sends a signal to your aircraft to track a bearing. So, a radio, and it basically allows you to get to a certain, like, point, just a random point where this VOR is. And sometimes VORs are at the airport, and sometimes they're some random spots. And then, like, before there were VORs and before there were, nav aids, then we had something called, just coordinates. So you could fly a heading, like, on a compass road. So like I'm gonna fly for a heading of west for two. I'm gonna check my ground speed. I'm flying 90 knots, and I'm going for 2 hours in this 90 knot ground speed, and I'm flying on this exact heading. And then once I get there, I'm gonna turn to a heading to southeast to do this heading of, so it's just like, that's the real flying. Real flying is just the headings and your ground speed and your time, and determining where you are by that. But yeah, when I do my cross countries, I'm using GPS, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I ain't using GPS. I'm following VORs. That's what I'm doing. I got old school VFR, IFR. I'm doing it Yeah, for your requirements, you have to have a certain amount tracking nav aids, but and ATC can help you too. Like, they can give you vectors, so there's also that. But as a part of,
you don't want to use vectors.
They don't. And before, like, honestly, it's a rule. Like, before you take off, you have to know how to get to where you're going. So, like, to Mo's point, if you have a GPS, you're gonna put the coordinates in your GPS. If you don't, then you're gonna plot it. You're gonna do the VOR thing. Or, like, super old school is you just look outside. Like she said, okay, if I'm going 90, no, you laughing, it's serious. And you're like,
that's real. You can't pass your test without that. Like, you have to know how to, like, I literally, their reckoning is like, okay, look, that's the highway. And it's
okay, and I'm going to go this way. Yeah, and then in 15 minutes, we're going to pass the power line, like literally.
Yeah, like, I saw 2 power lines, and this power line was going to the east, and then that power line.
Look on your little map and make sure it matches up.
And now, I gotta look at that. Here I'm coming up on this river, and this river got a little arm that's coming off.
Yeah.
When I get to that arm, let me start my timer over, because in 5 minutes from there, I'm like, that's real flying.
Real flying right there.
That just warmed my heart, because that's real flying. Yeah, that's real flying.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. What is the best thing that's happened to you in the plane, and what's the scariest thing that's happened to you?
The best thing that's happened to me in the plane?
And the scariest?
Well, I had an engine failure. That was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. I had an engine failure in the pattern on downwind. This is when my best friend was my instructor. So I was like, he's gonna save me. So it didn't hit me. I hadn't even soloed yet. I just only had like 4 hours or something. So I'm like, he's gonna make sure I'm good. And girl, I wasn't scared then, but now I be like, that's so scary that the engine just gave out on me. I saw this propeller stop spinning in the air. That's so scary. Like, I didn't know how scary that is. But luckily, like I said, we were in the pattern, which means we were right at the airport, and being on downwind is actually a good place to be on for engine failure. So we just curved back around and landed. The best thing that happened to me, I can't say a specific time, but I love flying. So, anytime I'm in the plane and I'm working on my training, and I have a good day training, and I did what I was supposed to do, and I went up and I decided, okay, I'm going to shoot these approaches, and, it goes fairly good, and I'm happy.
And then I think I'm gonna just copy Mo. Like every opportunity that I get to get into an airplane, and honestly, like I said, I quit a job that I was miserable at. Like, I was depressed, like low key, like all kind of crazy stuff. Like, did not want to be here, all kind of stuff. So for me, I'm just like super blessed and privileged, and like just humbled and grateful for the experience. So anytime that I get to like go to an airport, any day that I don't have to go back to my old job, for me is the best day about being in aviation. It's amazing. It's great.
Wow, that's beautiful. Where do pilots sleep?
Where?
What you mean?
In
my house.
Okay, so there's actually different answers for that, but I don't even know if this is really what you were asking me. So like through this big training phase, I'm at home. Like, I train a couple minutes away from my house, so I sleep at home. But I do travel a lot. So if I fly somewhere and I keep the plane overnight, most places have a crew car, so they allow you to take the car, and I'll do whatever I'm doing. I'll get a room, and that'll be that. But like, once you make it to the airlines, they stay in crash pads, which is like basically like something that typically beginner airline transport pilots do. And it's like they stay in this like house that's rented out to just pilots, but it might be like, I think, a 3-bedroom house, but it might have like 10 beds in it. And like, you might share a bedroom you might be in a bunk bed as an adult with like 4 other people in that specific room, and like it's co-ed, and like everybody's coming and going. So it's like that experience is the weird way that pilots like live. But like my friend who's doing his stuff, he refused to stand in crash pad. Like, they're known for just being like a lot
raunchy.
Raunchiness. It gives me brothel vibes, which I don't want to participate in either. And they're not really like, they're cheaper to stay in, but like if you just rent a house with like a good amount of people, it's really not that expensive. So, and they don't seem very clean. I heard they're not very clean either. So that's the regionals is like the sketchy part of aviation, where like you don't make a lot of money and you like gotta live kind of on a whim and you do the crash pad thing. So I think that might be the where do pilots sleep question that you might have been asking. But girl, yeah, we sleeping at home. Me and Lauren, girl, we're at home.
I mean, I'm not at home, but I'm sleeping in a bed and I'm I'm good. But yeah. Like and to our point, if we travel, you either get a hotel room or you can like look and see where other pilots have stayed. Some places that you fly into may have like a pilot getaway. So there's like a place that they only rent to pilots because they know you're coming there to vacation. It's kind of similar to Airbnb, if you're going outbacking and you want to fly into like the middle of nowhere, some people do sleep under the wing, like, if you're camping, but for the most part, she said not me. But
the last thing that I will say though is that every FBO has a pilot lounge. So every airport that you fly into, like if you really want to if during the day, most FBOs close, but like if you are just like, okay, I'm gonna be here for 5 hours, I'm tired, I don't want to get a room, like you can crash in the pilot lounge.
Yeah.
Pilot lounges are typically nice. Like I haven't really been to an FBO that had a pilot lounge that I wouldn't like rest my head for a few hours if I was just laying over. What is FBO? What does FBO stand for? Fixed based
operator. So ultimately it's like a gas station, give or take. So it's your convenience. So when you're traveling on the road and you need to get gas or snacks, you get off at like a travel station, like you like it says travel stop here. It's like a Pilot or what are some of the other ones across the US? Anyways, it's like a big rest stop, like a truck stop. So that's what an FBO is for airplanes. We can get fuel there. There's usually a restroom, a computer, and then it's where you meet your passengers. There's typically a rental car center. Some places are nicer than others, have more amenities than others, depending on how big the airport is.
In addition to Red Tails, are there any other resources that people should know about?
Definitely look into OBAP and Black Pilots of America, because those are going to be the communities where there are Black people in aviation, and they're going to be able to guide you to the scholarship funding.
So there's also, if you're a Black woman, there's Sisters of the Skies. So that is Black women aviator pilots. That's an organization. They give away scholarships as well. And then you got Women in Aviation, which is like a large group. So that encompasses people that are not just pilots, but also like air traffic controllers, maintenance folks, like any coordinators, charter coordinators, all that stuff. So Women in Aviation. And they give away a ton of scholarships every year. And they're open to like people all ranges. And then there's also the 99s. I actually just won a scholarship from the 99s to do my commercial training. So you do have to be an active member and stuff like that, but they give away private pilot training scholarships as well as advanced scholarships. And then EAA and AOPA both give away scholarships, and they're also good groups to join if you're going to be a pilot. And then also there's like some website called like Blondes in Aviation or something like that. And they have like a whole calendar, of when scholarships are. So if you're looking for something specific, you can like go to their website and look at it and just Google, right? There's a ton of if you just get on Google and you're like looking for aviation scholarships, you can like find stuff. You just got to be diligent. Like Mo said, like you definitely can find you the right person who's willing to invest in your, aviation career. There have been several people that have invested in mine, just from the fact that people love to hear, and especially because we're women and we're minorities, you tell somebody, oh, I quit my job to pursue flying and I'm out here and I'm doing it and I'm hanging out. And they're like, oh my God, we love you. Come, let us help you, on some seriousness. And I'm not saying that just to say it. I'm not saying that on some cockiness, literally stepping out on faith and moving towards something that you really, really want in an industry that's super, I don't want to say covert, but super small, pilots know that. They know that flying is expensive. These people know that getting into aviation is hard. They know that being Black is hard. They know that they don't see Black people in, aviation. So they're really out here trying to, be diverse and change that. So people in aviation across the board are really looking to help you. So it's all about being a mouthpiece, right? And then, of course, create your own, scholarship. I reached out to my friends and family and was like, so y'all know I got this, like, can y'all help? And it's hard. It's definitely a pride thing to like have to go ask somebody for some money, but you're pursuing your dream. And so if it's really what you want to do, I definitely believe that if you speak it into existence and you start walking in that direction, things are going to move out of the way, and like money will show up in ways that you did not know. And, all kind of things. And I could testify all night about the last year and a half of my life, but I'll save that for another video. So, but yeah, there's a ton of resources out there.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Lauren, you start first. Favorite location you've traveled to?
I'm going to say Little River, California. She said rapid fire. I'm not good at this. Keep going.
Go, Mo.
New Orleans.
Mo, what's your favorite food from another place?
Beignets.
Lauren, what's your favorite food?
I'm going to say I had a red beet salad that was fire. So I'm going to say that red beet salad.
Lauren, what's your greatest attribute?
I am like the bomb at programming. I'll figure anything out for you.
Mo, what's your greatest attribute?
My upbeat personality.
When you're not working, what are you doing, Mo?
When I'm not working?
What are you doing?
Sewing.
What are you doing, Lauren?
Hiding in a room by myself.
Oh, Lauren, what are you reading?
The Negro. That's what I'm reading right now.
What about you, Mo?
Girl, that's foreign. I'm trying to get my instrument ready.
Mo, Mo, who is your greatest inspiration?
My grandmother, I love her. I wear her name on my chain every day. Vera Muncie, I love that place.
You asking me? Oh, I'm gonna have to sit a man upstairs. That's me.
Amen. What's your first job, Lauren?
I worked as a clerk at a auto shop store.
Mo, what's your first job?
Girl, TJ Maxx.
Mo, what is something that you're most excited about right now?
Traveling. Once I get those benefits, girl, I'm gonna be everywhere. I am gonna make me a YouTube channel where I just travel. I already have a YouTube channel, and I can just already see it going so much further once I get some. Well, I'm on my friends flight benefits, so yeah. Once I get that going, girl, I'm gonna be traveling.
Lauren, what are you most excited about?
I'm looking forward to getting my multi-engine and starting to fly, like going places for sure.
Lauren, what's your favorite movie?
Love Jones.
What's your favorite movie, Mo?
Cat in the Hat.
And if somebody could play you in a movie, who would it be?
Ooh. Somebody could play me in a movie. Honestly, it would probably be my little sister. She looks just like me. And she acts just like me. So, sure. She could be me, I guess.
What about you, Lauren?
If we're talking about somebody famous, probably that. What is her name? The lady from This Is Us. The Black woman from This Is Us.
Oh, I know.
The wife.
Yeah, the wife. And then I also have to copy. Mo. My sister is like a spitting image of me. She has a lot. She's not as nerdy or awkward, but she could definitely pull me off.
Oh. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining this interview. Do you have any last words of wisdom, anything you want to tell somebody? If somebody came up to you, what would you tell them? What's something that you would tell them about aviation?
It's not crazy. Go do it. It's not crazy. Your dream is not crazy. The thoughts in your brain are not crazy. The pulls, the triggers, the desires of your heart are not crazy. Just go do it.
I would say that I'm gonna say two things. Piggybacking off of what Lauren said, if you are really interested in doing it, make it happen. And although I said that I didn't have certain skill sets initially, what I will say is that it's expensive, but don't let that discourage you. But do let that make you a very intentional person. So it's too expensive to play around with. Be extremely intentional, set goals. Once you've decided that this is something that you want to do, get to a point where it's lucrative. Don't stop at your private or at your instrument. Get that commercial and make it make money for you. And definitely, especially if you're Black or if you're a woman or you one or the other, or especially if you both, make sure you what is it called? Make sure that you document your process. Document your highs, document your lows, so that the things that you're going through and the things that you're experiencing, somebody won't feel like, damn, I'm just I'm the only person that looks like me. I'm the only person that can relate to this. Nobody else. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, we have a women's meeting now. Every women's meeting we have somebody new. I'm like, you have to understand that, like, this training wasn't even they never even anticipated that you were ever going to be here. This wasn't structured for you to be here. So step out of yourself sometimes and say, I know that this isn't even created for me, Black and a woman. So let me just see how I can approach this and talk to my instructor and see how I can make this make sense for me, because it's not even structured slightly for you to, easily grasp it. So women train different than me, and and just about any career field. So don't be afraid to talk to your instructor and say, hey, like, this isn't working for me. This style isn't working for me. Like, what can we do to switch it up to make this make sense? Because the worst place you want to be is in a hole with a big check of, money that you got to pay and you haven't reached any goals. So,
and it's okay to change instructors. If you're looking for a ground instructor, hit me up. Or if you just need advice, whatever. Like, we're super open people. You can DM me, send me an email, whatever the case may be. Like, we're out here to support and help encourage, each other as we go along on this journey.
Yeah, instructor-student compatibility. I worked as an administrative assistant for my program for a while. Instructor-student compatibility is supreme. Like, it really will change. Like, I've had students who work, like, come in every day, and I've seen them, like, literally go hard and with their instructor, and then they get with a different instructor, and they both nonchalant, so now they ain't training for as many days a week just because that's the way that they interact with each other. So make sure you get an instructor that cares about you, that wants to see you succeed, that is going to make it happen for you.
All right, travelers, well, that concludes today's video. If you enjoyed hearing about Lauren and Morgan's story, be sure to smash the like button and smash the subscribe button for more content like this. In the comment section below, let me know something interesting that you learned about becoming a pilot. And until next time, travelers, let's travel with our dreams together. See you later. Bye-bye.